You're watching the AfterBuzz After Show for Containment, Season 1, Episode 8. There is a crack in everything. Stay tuned for our thoughts and predictions.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey.
I love this one. It's my jam.
I like this. Hello, everyone. I am Tiona Hobson, filling in for Katie Campbell. Katie with 3 E's Campbell. She is unfortunately not here tonight. It's actually just me and Gabriel Gonzalez holding down the fort.
Yeah, I heard George Young told me that they'll be out of containment next week.
Yeah,
they come back.
They
yeah,
had 48
Yvette's
hours.
also not. Yeah.
48 hours.
Remember,
in containment.
Yvette, Katie, remember 46 feet.
As always. So we're here to talk about containment. Let's get into it because there's so much that happened tonight. Tonight's episode, after having a week off, it was exactly what we needed.
Yes.
Because everything's starting to come together. We're getting answers on some things.
This is the best episode so far of the season.
This was a really good episode.
It didn't disappoint at all.
Did not at all. Let's get right into it. And we start off the episode with Dr. Cannerts and his associate Larry working on the rats, and then Larry gets bit and then becomes this little screaming
Just say
wuss.
it. I thought you were going to go somewhere else, but yeah, he was a
No, because
wuss.
I'm not sexist. And I can't say a whiny little girl because that is a sexist statement.
All right.
Because why a girl's whiny and little, you know?
Okay, I'll give you that.
He's being a wuss right now.
He's being a big baby.
Because he got bit and freaking out, and we see that even the rat did bite through 2 layers of gloves.
Yes.
The good news in this is that the rat has Thomas's blood in it, so there's a chance that he's not actually infected, because we know that Thomas, he's our little Superman, and he's, at least he thinks that he's untouchable.
Technically he is. If you think about it, he's not sick.
He's not.
Yeah, but we're gonna get into that later. But real quick, that was very touching. I love how Kristen Gutowski's character, I mean, she does so well interacting with the adult actors on the show, but she just has that warmth about her with the kids that's really palpable on the screen. And I really like those scenes with her and Thomas, and obviously Quentin.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows how good of a teacher she is. That she can go from the adult conversations and the adult problems and issues straight into making a kid feel safe and secure. I mean, Thomas has lost his entire family at this point, and he's scared to leave the hospital and everything, so she's there to make sure he feels okay. So word gets out that they have hope at a cure. Yes. And Cannerts is talking to this very suspicious man on Skype, and at this point we don't know who he is. Later on we find out that he is David McIntyre, who is the director of infectious diseases.
Say that 5 times fast.
I mean, his job doesn't sound fun. No. And if I met him and he was like, "Hi, I'm the director of infectious diseases at the CDC," and put his hand out, I'd be like, "Dude, don't try and touch me. I don't know what kind of diseases you're messing with on a daily basis. Like, get away from me."
Well, what's funny, he'd probably be like, "All I do is push papers. There's someone else who handles that."
I'm like, I don't care.
I'm the director, not the doctor. No, but definitely, it's like infectious disease. It's like, ew.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, I'm sorry. You just.
It's like, right here, man. Let's not have
I'll
that.
give you an elbow. Boom. Elbow tap.
Elbow bump.
And David doesn't really seem happy or believing that Dr. Cannerts has found someone that's, immune to the virus. He's like, sounds like you've been in there too long. You're making stuff up at this point. And I was like, why is he downplaying this? People should be excited if there's hope. And then we fast forward, and David is in talking to Lammers. And we later find out that is her husband.
Yeah.
And that, even there, she's like, okay, if he has hope, then we need to get Thomas out of there ASAP. And she tells Lex, who is technically suspended right now, hey, there's hope going on in the cordon right now, and we need to take take that out and get Thomas back to the CDC so that we can run tests on him and figure it out. And did that strike you as like shady?
It did, in that I didn't expect Lammers to not flex her power as much. She actually did everything very reasonable and very kind in this episode, which for me, you guys already know, it makes me suspicious because it's like, what's going on? And you know, we'll get into the aftermath later, but I thought that was fishy, just how she didn't really ask Lex for anything. She gave him the access with unprompted, let him talk to Jake, who updated him, and really she didn't ask that favor until later on. And I thought that was very surprising because I really thought Lammers, she has him in the bag. That's kind of what she's wanted the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, the thing that just struck me as odd is that there was a lot of use of the word hope tonight. Katie used it when she was talking to Thomas, telling him, you know, you're bringing a lot of people hope. And Lammers tells Lex, hey, there's hope happening inside the cordon. And for her to want to take the hope away just seemed like the most evil thing that you would want to do to these people who are stuck inside there.
You know, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I felt like she was doing the right thing because I know. Oh my goodness.
How are we on opposite sides about this right now?
I'm shocked. I surprised myself. You know, because if Canards doesn't have the resources, she should be trying to get that boy out and possibly take credit, give credit to her husband. You know, poor Dr. Canards under all that pressure, and he's not going to get any credit.
Well, see, and that's my problem, too. It's that Canards even said, well, I should come with him. And she's like, no, we can't let you out. We don't want you here. It seemed like she was trying to take the hope away to make sure that there wasn't a cure that was found, because Canards is right. He is the one who understands this virus the most. Yes. So for the people at the CDC, why wouldn't you want him there if you're taking Thomas away? Yeah. Either keep Thomas with the guy who is living and breathing this virus right now, or send the guy with Thomas to help you because it'll be a faster process.
See, to me, why can't you send two people, essentially? Like, what is the big difference? I mean, you're not sending 5. You're sending 1 adult, 1 kid through that little door. What? So
keep Canards in 48 hours of containment before you let him in. If you're scared that he might be bringing something out, see that he's fine, and then let him go help further the research and the study. But this actually kind of leads us into, you know, what Lex and Leo were up to tonight, because we're learning a lot about all these people. Well, first of all, Jake tells Lex when they have their meeting about the drive that Jana decoded and what him and Katie found on the security footage, which is that, hang on, I got this all written down because it's a lot.
Oh, I got you.
So they find out that Nurse Sanders and her boyfriend, whose name we later found out was Henry Burns, met at 5 o'clock in the morning. He signed in every morning at 5. At 5:15, they were done with their quickie. And
5:15.
I mean,
okay, I'm not gonna add more to that.
She's a nurse who's working, so I appreciate that she wasn't leaving her patients alone for too long. I gotta appreciate that part.
How many people go to the hospital at 5:15 in the morning?
There's patients who are there all night.
Okay,
the ERs are always slammed.
Point.
And then he stays in this room that they were in for another 3 hours before he even comes out. Yes. And when he comes out, he is sick. He's gotten the virus. We see him dispose of a packaging in the biohazard thing. Right. He drops his ID and everything in there so that no one will know who he is. And then he goes back and he quarantines himself in this room.
Right.
Jake and Katie have seen this, and so he tells Lex about it, and Lex is like, okay.
Yeah, sends it over to Lex and Leo, the outside the cordon team, to do their research.
And I mean, what Leo finds is actually very compelling evidence. They look into Burns, can't find anything on him after, like, I forget what year they said.
It's like 2013.
Yeah, and then after that, he just falls off the radar. Suspicious. That's some CIA shit right there.
That made me think it's like, well, maybe he's not in on it, like Canards, because it's okay. Did he just go missing? Mm-hmm. We get into that later, but I want to talk about that team up with Lex and Leo now, because I thought that they did a good job of setting it up now, putting them on the same side in a way that was very organic. But then I did find it strange how Lex almost started to flip on Leo toward the end. You know, because I thought it was so well done this whole episode. I don't know about you, that just, hey, we're finally seeing them on the same side and it doesn't feel forced.
Yeah. So are you saying that when Lex was just not telling him what the plans were, and that's when you...
I felt that was so odd and out of character, just because I feel like that's exactly the kind of thing Lex would share with Leo now.
I don't think so.
Really?
I think that at this point, Lex has just gotten his badge back, and he doesn't know how long. He's trying to play both sides and to be a good spy. You can't tell Leo everything, because this is also some information that Leo would go probably leak. Yeah, they're getting along right now, but like for anyone to know that they're trying to get someone out of the cordon, I mean, we saw what happened at the end of the episode when, you know, the people inside saw Thomas get pushed back out.
Okay, so in other words, that media firestorm, if Leo was doing his thing as he's known to do now, do you think that... All right, I get that.
And I don't think that Leo is being completely forthcoming with Lex.
Really?
I think that if there was something that some information, if the tables were turned, I don't think Leo would have told Lex everything in that situation.
You know, I haven't thought of that yet. That's a very good point.
I just think if the tables were turned, they're getting along and it's great, but they're also... You know, you gotta keep your enemies close.
I will say that, yeah, I see Leo being more selfish, more self-preservation in that event, you know, but definitely, they did some great detective work, and Leo, this is a very, just a great episode for Leo. I mean, he really was showing off all his chops. He found all the answers tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he finds that that stuff about Burns. He finds out that the CDC delivered a biohazard package to Burns a few days before this whole virus went out. He also went over to Cannert's house, found out that he has a notebook and he thinks that Cannert's created the virus, which I think is something we've hinted out and alluded to, suspected for a while, that he definitely knows more about this virus than he was letting on.
And well, it makes complete sense now, because how would Cannert's know about it before the cordon went up? So,
and conveniently placed at that hospital, because he didn't always work there. So it's like he's inside the space of where the cordon would be, so that he could further his research on it.
Definitely. But well, now that calls... Okay, I was about to say, that calls into question, how much does Lammers know?
See, okay, so when we were watching the episode, I was like, oh my gosh, because when David, the director of infectious diseases, was talking to Cannert's, he said, well, why don't you call your sister? And Cannert's response was, that's only for like emergency purposes or something like that. So then I see David with Lammers, and my first thought was, oh my gosh, Lammers is Cannert's sister. That makes so much sense.
Nah, see, I didn't know. That is too weird. That I just could not see that. And I sat there and I went through that thought process, like, could it be? Should it be? And then I was like, no, it just...
Yeah, no. And then they announced that David was her husband. I was like, oh, okay, then clearly...
Yeah,
that's not. But I do think that Lammers and Cannert's know a lot about this and have worked together on many cases before.
Definitely. On a quick side note, McIntyre already seems like the perfect fit for Lammers. They just deserve each other. It feels like when I watch that episode, like, you know, that fits.
That is happening.
Yeah.
So just sorry, I've totally skipped over this part because we were talking about Thomas, and what we find out as the nurses and everyone are celebrating the fact that Larry has been quarantined and he's not showing signs, and that there's possibility of a cure, then he sneezes.
Oh my
And then he violently like spews blood all over the place, all over that poor nurse who was standing there all like, oh, champagne, and then she's covered in like it was like Carrie
That was the biggest oh shit moment I've had all season. Like that. Okay, that was worse than when Cannerts biopsied patient 0 in like episode 2.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
It was so unexpected, and I was just like, oh my god, I forgot how good their special effects is, because that went 0 to 100 so fast.
Yeah.
Like, we both jumped. We were both in shock at that moment.
I wasn't expecting it at all. I was just chilling in my chair, writing some notes, watching I'm like, okay, like, they're having a good time. Something bad's gonna happen, but, like, I wasn't expecting...
I thought he was just gonna sneeze.
Yeah.
Like, the sneeze, and then they're just gonna have that... but they just took it right there.
Right with it. So then they have to rush to tell everyone, don't let Thomas out. And then, of course, of all people... So let's talk about Captain Scott.
Yeah.
What's his face? So he's been giving Lex problems for a couple weeks now.
Yep.
And tonight, Lex is supposed to be in charge of this whole extraction. He's like, okay, we're going to do it at night. My guys are going to drill, you know, holes to do doors and tunnels. No guards on top of these containers because you're just going to draw attention to the spot.
Yes.
Captain Scott puts his guys up there anyway.
After Lommers gave Lex the okay too.
Yeah, he's drilling all loud. He's like, Lex is saying, if we can hear this, then they can hear this. You're not thinking straight. Mm-hmm. So, of course, Scott is the one who gets the call that Thomas is actually... What term did they use? He's
asymptomatic.
Asymptomatic. Yes.
Thank
you, doctor.
Scrabble champion 2016. No, but that's a very medical term, and that was unexpected because when I read the comments for all of our fans who thank you for watching so much, a lot of them said the kids are immune and that they're the ones secretly holding the cure. Mm-hmm. And they just completely hit us with something out of left field. I have not read that anywhere that maybe that's it. So that was very well done.
Yeah, that was a good little call there. Yeah. So he's symptomatic, and of course Scott comes in and he's like, put him out, get him out of here. And then he quarantines Lex and Lommers inside the container for 48 hours. So now they're stuck there.
See, okay, maybe this is just me getting a little too realistic for a science fiction show, but it's Atlanta in the summer. You don't survive 6 hours in that metal box.
It was just 2 episodes ago that the temperature was in triple digits and everyone was sweating and had no air conditioning.
It's like, have you know when you take plastic bottles and cans to get recycled, have you ever like walked up to like, you know, in there to get your receipt? Mm-hmm. It is so freaking hot, and I'm like, you're telling me you're gonna keep them in there?
Yeah. We're going to keep them in there, of all places. I mean... there had to have been a van or something outside that they could have got, but...
No, okay, this is going to be very evil. That is a bit of poetic justice to get rid of Lommers, if I do so myself. I mean, when I'm thinking about the creative ways that, you know, are befitting how evil she's been, well, that's not a bad idea.
See, I would rather... Captain Scott be stuck in there than Lommers.
Oh, he's got to go too.
He's got to go. He's just too much. Whatever. So let's talk about what's happening inside of the cordon for a little bit. We have Jana and her team, her squad goals.
Squad goals.
Hashtag squad goals. They're looking for their way out. Her and Susie used to go to this church when they were kids, and they know that there's a tunnel that will lead them out to safety. The problem is, the last time they tried to run away in this tunnel, Susie had a claustrophobic moment, and...
That's when we learned she's claustrophobic.
Yeah, that's when we learned that she's claustrophobic, and she had a complete freak out and was stuck in the middle of this tunnel for hours until Jana could finally convince her to just go back out the way they came in. Right. So the big question on Dennis's mind is, girl, how you gonna get out of here? Because Dennis and Susie are, you know, having their little thing, but now he's like, I need to get back to my family, and he's incorporating the drop a bitch rule. Yeah. Which is something my friends and I use when you go out and someone gets a little too tipsy or whatever, and you gotta just drop them back at the hotel and you go continue your night. So he is incorporating this rule.
I really thought you were gonna go somewhere else with that. Because we know how sleazy Dennis is, and then I'm like, wait, your friends have protocol for when you get in those situations?
No.
I mean, the secret life of women.
No judgment.
Okay.
No judgment. But Dennis is trying to just, he's like, look, I'm leaving you here if you're not coming through this tunnel with us. And a lot of good that does him. Yep. Because, he goes through and then he passes out.
Yeah, there's a gas leak in the tunnel, apparently. Alan, too.
Yeah. So they're...
I mean, I kind of would have thought that's... literally, it's too quiet of a way for any of these characters to go on this show. So at first I thought it's like, did we just lose Dennis like that? Then I'm like, it just can't be like that.
At first, I couldn't really tell because, the TVs that we watch on a little higher up. So I thought that they had been attacked and had been stabbed. So then I was like, run, girls, y'all better run!
And that lends to the theory, like, it was Alan. And I thought, like, oh my God, it is. He's a psycho.
I thought they were attacked.
And then he's there too, and then it's like, that got rid of that. That would have been too much for one episode. I would have been like, I can't handle this. It's too crazy.
Yeah, so they've decided that the best plan of action is just to go back to BitScan. Yeah. Of course, Dennis is like, no, I have to keep looking for a way out of here, and he goes off on his own. Mm-hmm. My question is, where is Teresa and what's it? Because they were all together last week at BitScan, and then did they just leave the pregnant girl behind?
That's a great question. You know what? I can't even...
Because they were all together last week.
Yeah, because Jake only took the mom, huh? I didn't even think of that. I'm assuming Xander and Teresa, they got separated. Maybe they're still there.
They're still at BitScan?
That would be... Well, I hope they're not, just because I feel like
Teresa need to take her butt to the hospital, okay? Because right now, that is the safest place in the cordon, because no one's messing with the hospital right now. And she's pregnant and about to have that baby, so she needs to go where some doctors are. That's all I'm saying.
I was gonna say, I don't think you want to go to that hospital, though. I mean, there's got to be like a local pharmacy with everything she needs, something.
Who's gonna deliver the baby?
They train those people.
What people?
At the pharmacy.
No one's at the pharmacy.
All you gotta do is that's like one of the most basic things they teach nurses is how to deliver a baby.
But they don't. But remember, there's no one at the pharmacies because we already had Jake go out there to look for Katie's medicine, and all the pharmacies and all the stores have been looted. She needs to go to the hospital. Where there's a doctor, unless she wants Xander to deliver her baby and die, like it's the 1600s.
Go like that? You know what? I
you don't know what he's doing?
He read like 6 books. He said.
On what to expect when you're expecting, not how to deliver a baby.
They teach people how to do. People do these things in elevators and everything.
They're on the phone with 911 and they're talking them through what to do. They don't have access to the phone. They don't have access to the internet. Teresa, take your butt to the hospital, okay? She just need to go to the hospital.
I guess I don't want Teresa to go. She's so adorable, right? I feel like anyone who goes into that hospital anymore isn't coming back out.
What are you talking about? Jake and Katie are in the hospital.
They're an exception. They get to at least survive till episode 13.
Well, I mean, they are surviving very nicely right now.
Oh, yeah.
Finally expressing their feelings towards each other.
I gotta say, that might be the most unique shower scene you're ever gonna see on TV.
It was, and it was like, it was weirdly hot. Like, I was like, okay, I'm with it. It's kind of like a tease, but then like we're touching, but we're not touching, and like our lips are together. But when they started kissing on that shower curtain, all I could think was, this is a public shower. And when I'm in public showers, I don't even like the curtain to touch me. Because I'm just like thinking of all the other people who've touched it and what their skin felt like, or, what if they have some sort of disease and I don't want to catch herpes off the curtain.
We had this conversation where we saw it. For one thing, I wish that I had Snapchatted your reaction to it. Her face was priceless, and it's like, I should have had it ready. My first thought was like, hey, you know what? Because you mentioned that, and I thought, Bert's doing a good job. He's on top of things.
Bert is in charge of the rats, not the custodial duties.
How do you know?
Because he didn't even work there until a couple days before.
Doesn't mean, hey, you go through a lot of things in training.
No, he brings rats to Dr. Canner's. He's not the janitor. He's not cleaning up the place. And if that was his job, he ain't doing that right now because we got other things we need to take care of.
I don't know. I feel like Bert he's stepping up in the time of need to do the dirty jobs necessary to save the cordon.
Either way, it was still a very hot scene.
On that scene, believe it or not, I would have thought it was it would have been more sensual, would have been better, I think, if they had just done the hands. Because I thought that scene by itself, just as it represents, when it got to the kissing part, that one I was a little... I don't know, it lost the chemistry for me, I thought, just because it is so different, but I guess, I mean, it's been 12 days where Katie has had to look at Jake's oiled up arms, which, by the way, Chris Wood will mention that on Twitter all the time, like, when he can't watch the episode, he says, fans, catch me up later on how oiled my arms were in the episode. I think that's hilarious, yeah, but, 12 days locked up, when we had Kristen Gutowski's, it's a long time to just be sitting there looking at someone, so it was a bad damn time.
It was. And, I mean, before this happened, they have a conversation, kind of what they would do when the cordon's gone. And she's like, if I never see you again, if we don't keep in touch, if this is just something because of the extreme circumstances that we're in, I'm so happy I met you. And he's like, look, I'm not going anywhere. Yep. The old Jake would have ran away from your problems. She's like, I got mental issues, I got custody battles, I got all this crap on my plate.
Jake's saying, you know what? Who said I'm leaving? I want to be here. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Katie and Yvette aren't here, so I'm gonna just say that got me right in the feels. Like, Kristen Gutowski, Katie's character is so beautiful, so charming, and it's like, you know what? That's how it's supposed to be done. That's how we do it.
Yeah, it was a really great moment, and it shows the growth that Jake's character has had in the past 12 days because, I mean, what we know from his relationship with Jana is that, he wasn't the best guy to date, and he runs away from commitment and relationships, and here he is saying, like, no, I want to be a part of your family. I want, like, this. He wants to be a tripod with her and Quentin. They are the tripod. #tripod.
You're going to get a lot of photographers mad at you on Twitter. But okay, all right.
But it works. And speaking of other relationships and relationship goals, okay. Bert and Micheline.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you, Steven. #tripod feels.
Okay.
That is what we're going with.
We're gonna make that trending by the end of the night.
So Bert and his wife, they are, he comes home, he's all excited to tell her that Cannerts might have found a cure, and
because of his rats.
Because of his rats, not his janitorial skills.
Let it go.
And so she wants to celebrate. They want to dance. He puts on her song.
I love that scene. That was so
She had
nice.
to get her pearl necklace, which just putting it out there. She was reaching for the pearls, and that's when she tumbled over, and she gashed her leg pretty good.
Okay, in that scene, when you look at it, I was actually worried, like, what if Bert's not a young guy? What if, like, the bookcase had fallen?
I thought the bookcase was going to fall on her.
And I was like, oh, don't tell me that just happened to her.
I was like, oh, man, this is how she dies? Not even from the disease, but because a bookcase fell on her?
That's what I thought. Like, that's just cold. That's cold-blooded even for this show. And they might as well have taken Larry's head off, for crying out loud. I don't know. Okay, obviously the question now, we didn't raise this, but Bert's been in the hospital a long time around Thomas, around a lot of Cannerts a lot. She's got that open wound. Does this mean maybe she gets sick now?
That's what I was thinking.
That's what
She's got this open wound, and I was like, she hasn't left the house, but, you know,
Bert's been everywhere.
Bert's been everywhere. He's been in that hospital. He's been messing with the rats, and you just never know. I mean, he does go, and Cannerts gives him a box of, you know, medical supplies to help with her leg and everything, but it just has me very worried because even the looks on their faces made me worried. Like, and at first I was like, oh my gosh, does she already have the virus? And he's like, oh no, now your blood's exposed. But I mean, if she goes down, I think that Bert will go down with her.
I don't want that to happen.
I don't want it to happen, but I'm just saying that Bert's not gonna let her go down without him.
I think so.
Being like, if one has it, they both have it.
It'll be very The Notebook in that way. I feel like
that's how they go down, if they go down.
Well, I mean, you might as well have put them in the coffin the way you said that.
I'm just saying that. If
I mean,
it
just
happen,
it's like, you know, when they go down, if they go down, then it's like, I mean, so confident.
So I think that about covers this episode. Maybe we should get into some predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So I like what you were saying earlier about the fans saying that maybe, you know, the children are our future.
Yeah.
You know, because they're immune to this. One thing that I definitely noticed, and that you noticed too, is that when Thomas was leaving, the little girl whose name I can't remember right now, gave him a kiss on the cheek. Yeah. And at that point we were like, that's like, you know, a lot of action for him.
I was gonna say, of all the characters, little Thomas got the most action of anybody. You go, little man. You know, you're going places.
Yeah, so since we know that he's asymptomatic, and just because he's fine doesn't mean he's not exposing people to it, he's now been around all the kids, Katie, Jake,
I was gonna say
everyone in the hospital staff. So things could turn really morbid at the hospital.
Yes, and I love how they set that up, because the first thing when we figure out Thomas is sick, you go through the characters, well, who has he touched? And I think to that scene with Katie and Thomas, did she touch him? Fans, if you want to comment, watch it back. I don't think she touched him. I'm not sure if she technically has since, but it makes sense that she would have somewhere between. Mm-hmm. And if not, we see...
Well, wait, she lifted him off of the gurney. But at this point...
Did she touch liquid?
Yeah,
no,
that's
sweat,
what I was going to say. At
blood,
this point, it's only through liquid, unless it's not. Unless it's evolved itself.
Okay, that's just too morbid. I mean, let's play within the rules, but I'm worried. One of the things I thought of, the little girl who kissed Thomas, was that the same girl that Katie carries in episode 1? I thought it was a different one, but I'm not sure. And looking back on it now, well, remember also the pilot episode is, you know, there are slight changes for shows like these, so slight variations with, you know, what it has to be an extra, you know, otherwise they would have made her a more important character.
Well, no, because I think the same girl has been around, just like Thomas was always around.
Even from the pilot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
because they shot it all together.
Oh, okay. All right, so that's one thing I'm worried about, like, it's gonna happen because of that.
Yeah.
So that worried me.
I don't have any other predictions.
That's your prediction. So wait, what was your prediction?
My prediction is that
some main characters are sick?
I think that the main characters are sick, and I think that that little girl might be next. Because we have seen kids go down from this. Thomas's sister went down. Like,
it's true. My biggest thing, I believe that Dr. Cannerts is actually not safe. I feel like being around Thomas and so close to it, I think that somewhere along the line, despite the fact that he has been so careful, he's gonna be one that just he didn't realize he infected himself along the way, and we're probably gonna get that coupled with more backstory, because we haven't discussed that Cannerts came up with the virus.
Mm-hmm. And who was his sister? Who he called? we don't know. The mystery continues with Dr. Cannerts.
Yeah, I take it to assume that she somehow... Well, he created the virus that got her sick. That's where I feel like the mystery will be solved, because...
Do we know that she's sick?
It made it seem that way, I felt like. That's why, you know, he didn't really want to talk to her that much. I thought that, oh, well, she's struggling. That's what I got at,
Maybe.
that Cannerts wanted to solve it for his sister. That's the vibe I got. If I somehow missed that, maybe, but I think my prediction... I think Jake, after being so close, is gonna want to get a little closer to Katie. But yeah, I believe Cannerts might be a little sick next week.
Well, make sure you guys let us know what you think is going to happen. Make sure if you're watching us on YouTube, please leave a comment below so we can see your thoughts and predictions. And if you're listening on iTunes, make sure you go to the app and subscribe to us and leave us a comment and rate us 5 stars on there as well. 5 stars, exactly.
Have you ever seen that NBA commercial? 5 stars.
We will be back next week with a full panel because, you know, I have high hopes that both Katie and Yvette will make it out of the quarantine.
I think so too.
In the 48 hours.
We haven't discussed, are you going to say them or do I got to do it?
No, they're already in quarantine. We don't have to save them. They just have to be released.
Dr. Cannerts is going to let them through the door?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I love it.
Where can the fans find you?
Hey guys, as always, to talk containment. I love talking to you guys about the show at Double G on TV.
And you can find me at the Tiona Hobson on Twitter and Instagram. AfterBuzz TV is all over social media at AfterBuzz TV. We're on Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud. We're on like everything. So just go find us on there and make sure you guys send us some love throughout the week and let us know what you're thinking about containment and who you think is going to die next. We'll see you guys next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.